It was me that put Freddie down, King. I was trying to do what he do to everybody else to him. And shit got real fucking stupid, real fucking fast. That's what the fucking cops was talking to me about. That's why I was it.
You never speak on that again, Faye. Not to me, not to nobody.
Now, Unique's death is a huge moment in Raising Kanan, arguably the biggest moment of the series so far, but we also have to remember there are still a few more storylines, plots and characters that we do need to be mindful of for the rest of Season 3, and Famous is one of them. Over the last couple of seasons, he's built a really strong brotherly bond with Kanan, where they've had their ups and downs, but for majority of the time I would say they've been there for each other. However, we're really starting to see that relationship change and evolve from a brotherly bond to more of a business relationship. With any close friendship, you're going to involve your friendships in your business, whether it be through necessity or choice. I feel that your best friend, you're always going to have their back regardless. In this season, I feel like we're going to have a lot of weight put on each other. And that's the problem when it comes to Famous this season. At times, he has Kanan's back, but there are moments where he hasn't. Although you can say the same for Kanan. He was very quick to Javon's rescue, but he was nowhere to be seen for Famous. So the dynamic between the two is beginning to take a huge shift. And the moment Ronnie starts to poison Kanan's mind, the more he'll start to drift further away from the Kanan Famous once knew. But in this video, we're going to be looking at whether it's over for Famous, has time run out for him, and could he end up dead or in jail by the end of Raising Kanan Season 3. Now, when it comes to Kanan and Famous's relationship, something that always sticks out for me is what we heard Kanan say very early on in Season 1.
Famous ain't built for this shit anyway. This is the shit D-Wiz was always down for.
No doubt.
No doubt, if D-Wiz was still alive, then he would have been Kanan's partner in crime, because this is the shit that D-Wiz was always down for. On the other hand, Famous was always about writing rhymes rather than committing crimes. Now, Jessica sleeping with Crown behind Lou's back also helped Famous get that studio time, where he made a hit song Streets Need a Body, but the only problem was, he was rapping about Kanan's life, who really wasn't exactly impressed, which is a point I'm going to be focusing on later on, because when Famous gets back in the studio, I do think we'll see history repeat itself, but just with a different outcome this time around. Now, later his music career did take a big dive, especially when Lou was in charge, because Famous was more worried about smoking weed than putting his mind to work. He also found himself in the streets selling product with Kanan. That was after he was chucked out by his moms, with his sister Jessica moving to LA. Later he found himself in a holding cell when Kanan and Famous got caught up with Freddie in Season 2, where Famous went back for round 2, this time killing Freddie when he found himself in a kill or be killed situation. Something which you would have thought might have been the turning point for his character. I mean, sometimes even if you aren't built for the streets, your environment and who you hang around with do dictate who you become, but even then, it still wasn't enough to change Famous.
I ain't trying to be on that track again. You know better than anybody, this hustling shit just ain't me.
Unfortunately, with the rent due, and with Kanan not accepting any handouts from Rock, him and Kanan had to make ends meet through Simrad, Famous's weed connect. The problem with Famous is, he was always smoked up, and Simrad and Romero did warn Kanan, so it really wasn't a surprise the moment Kanan had his back turned, or was out of the apartment, Famous went back to doing what he wanted, getting high and writing rhymes.
Miss Rock!
You don't see nothing, you don't know nothing, and you ain't saying nothing.
Now, Rock has actually put Famous in a very sticky situation more than once, and now we're slowly seeing what Antonio Ortiz and Mackay Curtis teased Pride Season 3, where we start to see an evolution in their friendship that goes from brotherhood to more business, which will go one step further in episode 6.
You gonna have a problem, Famous.
It's not even like
It's
that.
exactly like that. I'm scary too, motherfucker.
Now, we all know the path that Kanan is on, which will quickly go from weed to powder under Ronnie Mathis. But when it comes to running his operation, one thing Ronnie will not do is, he won't tolerate any nonsense or clowning around, and that means Famous has to be out. I wouldn't even be surprised if Ronnie tells Kanan to get rid of Famous because he's a liability or can't be trusted, because I do feel something has to give when it comes to Famous. We're watching Kanan go from a pup to a wolf, and for him to progress and grow as a character, for us to learn how he became the character that we saw on Power, he does need to get serious in the streets. He needs to build his own empire, make new alliances, lose more loved ones, and eventually come across Breeze. So it does make you wonder where will Famous fit into Kanan's story when that happens, especially when he gets deeper in the streets and starts to make all of these connections. So this is where we get to the theory element, which of course will be backed by the evidence, facts and findings, because I can see it ending in two ways for Famous, and I'm going to run through both, which does stick with the theme of characters either ending up dead or in jail. In my breakdown for episode 5, I briefly touched on how Famous got on the stage at Cafe Vu and lit the place up. Everybody was bouncing to Famous's rhymes. Marvin approved, Duke approved, and so did Lou. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Famous getting back in the studio and walking away from the street life he said he isn't built for. It's a game we knew he never wanted to be in anyway, and he's only in this weed business because Kanan basically gave him no choice. The first opportunity that he got when Kanan wasn't around, he put the phone down and went back to doing what he wants to do, smoking weed and writing rhymes. Now in this moment he was also interrupted by Rock, where he watched her put a gun in Kanan's backpack. He stood there and watched it all play out because he was scared. But Kanan will find out in episode 6. I do think it has been teased that Famous will come clean. So just on a quick side note, do you guys think Famous should have told Kanan? I personally think he should have, because that's his boy and he should have had his boys back. But looking at this from Famous's perspective, he was in a bit of a sticky situation because Rock told him don't get involved in family's business. You can also make the argument, where was Kanan when Famous got picked up? Cops, which I do think was sent by Rock. So let me know if you think Famous should have told Kanan. Now the problem that Kanan will have is, if Famous gets back to his music, we all know he has a habit of rapping about real life events that they've been through, and I can actually see Famous's music career taking off with Lou. Lou was looking at him like, yeah, I see the dollar signs. So I wouldn't be surprised to see both of them back in a brand new studio at the back of Cafe Vu, and Famous tapping into his real life experiences and putting that shit down on paper with his track 411. However, the fact that he's already been questioned about Freddy, is it a foreshadow for what's to come? Could Famous self-snitch through his track and then end up talking to the cops if he's looking at some major time? Because if he does, then he's in some big trouble. So I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if Ronnie pulls Kanan in and tells him that Famous has to go, because he's running his mouth or he's too much of a liability. We all know Ronnie will take Kanan under his wing, but Ronnie definitely won't stand for Famous clowning around or talking any shit, which is probably where Kanan got this from.
This is tough. He needed a lesson in holding it. You sure shit wasn't gonna give it to him. The next time I ask you if you could trust a member of your crew, sure is not an acceptable answer. Can I trust you to do what needs to be done here?
Back in OG Power, Brock was talking shit while Kanan and Tommy came to see Dre. He then later gave him a brutal lesson by cutting out his tongue for speaking out of line, which definitely is some shit Ronnie would do. So I wouldn't be surprised after Ronnie's just killed his brother, he tells Kanan, Famous has to go. Now another reason why I do feel like Famous's death could be coming isn't just because he could be a liability, or because we need to see Kanan's character grow and develop, but also because his name is Sean Figueroa. So you have to assume at some point, something big will go down with Sean aka Famous, which then makes Kanan name his son after his best friend. Although I don't think Kanan would ever name his son after a snitch, but let's see what happens when he does get back in the studio. Because if it's not death, then could it be jail? Could Famous have to do some time after his rhymes to pay for his crimes? Now I think we all know law enforcement are getting closer and closer. We've seen them sniffing around Rock, and whether Marvin's been dealing with undercover cops as well, only time will tell. Howard's also been questioned at the precinct around his shooting, and where they are with his case. So they're reminding us as the audience, they haven't forgotten about what's happened in the past, including Famous killing Freddy. We saw Famous being picked up and questioned, and even though Famous did stay strong, you do feel like a win is coming for law enforcement in some shape or form. So if it isn't death for Famous, then I wouldn't be surprised to see him ending up in jail, with his track 411 being a bit of a double-edged sword. He might find some success and attention, but not the good kind, the law enforcement kind. So if he isn't killed, could he find himself being in jail by the end of season 3? And how does Ronnie start to influence Kanan's decision making with this Famous situation, especially after he's just gone and killed his own brother? Drop all your thoughts and predictions down below in the comment section, and let me know how you see this story playing out for Famous. Is he out of here, or does he still have some more story and will he make it to season 4? Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.